the woman I worked with, a great actress, on The Flying Nun, grabbed me and took me to the back of the soundstage and put a piece of paper in my hand because I was really depressed, and I gained 20 pounds in 2 hours.
Sally Field just shattered the calm at 78 years old, and Hollywood is reeling. After keeping silent for decades, the two-time Oscar legend has named 5 co-stars she could barely stand to breathe the same air with. One, she says, was a narcissist in every frame, while another dazzled everyone with pure manufactured charm that fooled the world. Hold tight, because the sweetness you thought you knew is about to turn blisteringly honest. Burt Reynolds, the dream that turned into a storm. Back in the glowing haze of the late 1970s, Sally Field and Burt Reynolds looked like a match written in starlight. Their on-screen chemistry in Smokey and the Bandit crackled with wit, spark, and a secret tenderness fans believed was real. Paparazzi flashes followed them everywhere, locking their laughter into glossy immortality. Yet once the limos drove away, Sally was plunged into a far darker road trip. Behind Bert's dazzling grin lived an iron will. In her raw memoir in pieces, Sally finally stripped away the myth, revealing a romance built on quiet ruin. Bert demanded center stage in every arena, including her soul. What began as flirty banter slid into open domination. He critiqued her looks and offhand jokes that hit like stones. He poked at her intelligence with sugary comments that stung more than they soothed. Even as critics praised Sally's rising talent, Bert undercut her with a public smile and a private chill. She recalls interviews where he flashed that famous grin while dismissing her achievements as little side quests. The red carpet glow would fade, and icy distance replaced it. At home, he shut her ideas down, planned her schedule without asking, and interrupted her mid-sentence until she felt more prop than partner. "I never felt truly seen," she confided, and that single line exposes a hollow echo she lived with night after night. Most heartbreaking was his emotional whiplash. One evening, he showered her with soft affection. The next, he vanished into punishing silence. Love turned into a lever he yanked at will, keeping her off balance and desperate for the warmth he had just stolen. "I wanted to love him. I did love him. But he hurt me," she wrote, and each word drips with the ache of a woman slowly erased. Yet she stayed, praying that tomorrow might bring the gentle hero fans adored. Instead, she dwindled, watching her own worth drain away while he strutted across magazine covers. Bert later told interviewers that Sally was the one who got away, but by then she had already walked off a set of his life to rescue her own spirit. Leaving was more than a breakup. It was a reclaiming of voice and value, a silent standing ovation for herself that the public never saw. But she finally felt. Tommy Lee Jones, acting opposite a glacier. Next on Sally's hidden list is Tommy Lee Jones, and the chilly cast on a set of Backroads could freeze desert sand. Sally arrived eager to dive into a story packed with grit and fragile hope, expecting the usual teamwork that turns dialogue into living fire. Instead, she found a partner who looked through her, as if she were invisible fog. From day one, the atmosphere thickened with silence. Jones answered rehearsal questions with clipped syllables. No eye contact when cameras rested, no shared smiles, no simple, "How was lunch?" Every scene felt like speaking into a canyon that never echoed back. Sally, who thrives on creative exchange, felt herself bouncing lines off a stone wall wearing human skin. Determined not to surrender, she tried polite chat between takes, an anecdote here, a light joke there, a suggestion about character depth. He barely nodded. Sometimes he refused even that, turning away as though her presence interrupted an inner monologue only he could hear. She sensed not mere shyness, but open disdain, as if he believed she was unworthy of standing on the same chalk marks. Acting demands trust, yet Sally had to pour emotion into a vacuum. "We were supposed to play two broken people learning to love," she later sighed, "but I was performing by myself." When Backroads hit theaters, critics noted a baffling lack of chemistry that flattened the central romance. What they never guessed was that the frost on screen was real, filmed in the icy shadow of a partnership that never thawed. Sally still delivered a solid performance, hitting every beat with professional grit. But once the director yelled cut, She retreated to her trailer drained, isolated, and wondering how an actor could be so present in the frame and so absent everywhere else. The audience saw a lukewarm love story. Sally experienced an emotional freeze that left her counting the days until wrap. Sally Field left a set of back roads with frost in her bones, and she never looked back. She and Tommy Lee Jones would never share a camera again, and her silence on that choice spoke louder than any headline. Years later, interviewers noticed it. The brief pause, the cooler pitch in her voice, the gentle pivot to a safer topic. Her restraint told the whole story. What happened on that film ran deeper than a simple mismatch in styles. For Sally, the shoot became a warning flare. Mutual respect is the oxygen of acting, and without it, scenes suffocate. She had danced with controlling personalities before and found her footing, but Tommy's version of indifference felt like contempt. He didn't throw tantrums. He froze her out. The result was a partnership so hollow it felt like acting to an empty seat, and the memory still chills her whenever the movie's name resurfaces. Critics soon forgot back roads, but Sally never forgot the silence, the icy gap between cut and any human warmth. She refused to let that cold dim her light. Yet the experience carved a permanent lesson into her craft. For an artist built on warmth and honesty, that set became a lonely detour she hopes no actor ever repeats. Robert Blake, chaos dressed as method. When Sally signed on for Say Goodbye, Maggie Cole, she expected rich drama and soulful teamwork. Instead, she walked into a cyclone, and Robert Blake was its wild eye, famous for blurring fiction and life. Blake called it dedication, but Sally quickly spotted the truth. Volatility masquerading as genius. From day one, the ground shifted under her feet. Blake swapped lines without warning, ignored blocking, and hijacked whole scenes mid-take. What he labeled spontaneity, Sally labeled sabotage. Scripts unraveled, rhythms collapsed, and every fresh idea got bulldozed by another unscripted outburst. The damage ran even deeper off camera. 1 minute Blake brooded in eerie calm. The next he erupted, cursing a grip or storming away because a light seemed off by an inch. Crew members tiptoed through every hour, praying the next explosion wouldn't land on them. Sally, who treasures collaboration, suddenly played peacekeeper, soothing nerves just to keep the day afloat. The emotional price mounted fast. Sally poured herself into Maggie Cole, a woman defined by grace under pressure, while living inside pressure that felt anything but graceful. Each vulnerable scene she crafted was torn open by Blake's unpredictable energy. Soon exhaustion replaced inspiration, and the production buckled under the stress. At last the cracks grew too wide. The once promising television drama was shelved, unseen by the public, its promise buried beneath chaos. Many actors would chalk that up as an industry glitch, yet Sally carried scars far deeper than lost airtime. She later called the shoot traumatic, stressing it wasn't a clash of egos. It was a work site where emotional safety vanished. In later interviews and in pieces, she laid it bare. There are actors who act, she wrote, and there are actors who try to make everyone else small so they feel big. Blake fit that second group, and her words landed like a gavel. The lesson was searing. Never confuse volatility with artistry. So she drew a hard line. Never again. Never again would she sacrifice her worth to someone else's dysfunction in a business that romanticizes tortured talent. She could now see the myth hiding real harm, abuse of power, disregard for colleagues, and a poison that can sink an entire set. She walked away not only from a doomed project, but from the illusion that every brilliant actor deserves applause. Shirley MacLaine, Southern Belle meets Silent Storm. On screen, Steel Magnolias looked like pure sisterhood magic. Sally as gentle yet iron-willed, Shirley MacLaine as sharp-tongued Weiser. Together they etched grief and resilience into cinema history. Audiences felt a seamless bond, but backstage a very different current pulsed. Sally arrived ready to dive into MLYNN's heartache with open vulnerability. She believed in ensemble harmony, building honest emotion through trust. Shirley walked in with thunder. Stories of past triumphs, Oscar glory, and legendary friends rolled off her tongue like a resume on repeat. The message was clear. She owned the battlefield, trophies in hand. Tension crackled from day one. Where Sally offered tenderness, Shirley countered with turbulence. crew whisper spoke of scenes treated like turf wars, every line a skirmish, every moment a chance to prove seniority. Quiet pauses filled with subtle one-upmanship left cast members trading anxious glances. Yet Sally held her ground. She learned to shield her focus, to let Shirley's bravado pass like thunder overhead, while she nurtured the fragile emotional weather of her own role. The shoot wrapped, the film soared, and viewers wept over friendships they believed were flawless. Off-screen, Sally walked away wiser. She discovered that even celebrated partners can carry hidden storms, and that staying rooted in one's craft matters more than wrestling for spotlight. Sally Field didn't care about trophies or bragging rights. She cared about honesty. But Shirley's attitude didn't just clash with Sally's style. It sabotaged her most crucial moments on set. One unforgettable day would haunt Sally for years. Sally had prepared meticulously, knowing the entire film hinged on her emotional honesty. Yet filming dragged on, not because Sally struggled, but because Shirley refused to respect the moment. Instead of silence, Shirley fired off sarcastic comments, whispered jokes, and openly rolled her eyes, undermining Sally's powerful monologue with forced comedy. None of this was scripted or helpful. It felt like deliberate sabotage. Shirley seemed unable to bear anyone else shining brighter, even for one emotional second. Still, Sally never snapped. She remained professional, quietly enduring the interruptions. She smiled politely, nodded between takes, and continued delivering the wrenching performance demanded by the script. But each night, alone in her trailer, she felt utterly drained, not by her role, but by the exhausting battle to protect her scenes from Shirley's interference. Over time, Sally realized this wasn't about acting styles. It was about egos. Shirley needed the spotlight to feel important. Sally only wanted to serve the story. They smiled for the cameras, but a permanent chill lingered behind the scenes. Sally never confronted Shirley publicly. Yet in later years, whenever asked about her experience, Sally gently admitted Shirley carried a storm of chaos everywhere she went. It wasn't gossip. It was calm truth earned through bitter experience. For Sally, filming Steel Magnolias became a complex memory. Pride in the beloved film mixed with disappointment at having to shield herself emotionally. Audiences cried watching Sally's heartbreaking scene, but her deeper grief never appeared on screen. The pain of working with a co-star who couldn't step aside, the realization that not every acclaimed actress knew how to share a moment. Sally learned that even a story about women supporting each other could hide selfishness beneath its beauty. She never acted with Shirley again. She didn't need to. Her quiet strength and professionalism on Steel Magnolias proved her resilience. Yet she never forgot how perfectly cinematic magic could mask painful realities lurking just beyond the lights. James Woods, the man who mistook cruelty for brilliance. When Sally Field signed on to Kiss Me Goodbye, she envisioned laughter, romance, and a welcome break from emotionally exhausting dramas. The film promised charm, warmth, and playful storytelling. Instead, she stepped into emotional quicksand, and the man pulling her down was co-star James Woods. Woods, famed for intense, brooding roles, dominated every scene from day one, but not in a good way. Sally quickly sensed the imbalance. Scenes meant to sparkle became heavy, weighed down by Woods' constant intellectual dissections and debates. He challenged the director openly, criticized the script relentlessly, and worse, undermined Sally's performance mid-scene, often loudly enough for the crew to overhear. It felt humiliating, as though every rehearsal was an intellectual battle Woods desperately needed to win. For Sally, who built her career on emotional truth and mutual respect, Woods' approach wasn't collaboration. It was psychological warfare. She wasn't interested in winning arguments. She just wanted to do her job honestly. But Woods seemed determined to prove his intellectual superiority by silencing her. His quick mind didn't elevate the work. It crushed the creative spirit on set. Yet the worst moments happened off camera. In quiet moments, Woods planted seeds of doubt, casually commenting that Sally's heart didn't seem fully invested, that she was phoning it in. It might have seemed offhanded to Woods, but Sally felt each word cut deep. She had poured herself into every scene, navigating a toxic environment, only to be casually dismissed as mediocre. Sally knew exactly what he was doing. Woods wasn't pushing her creatively. He was trying to shrink her, using sharp comments disguised as helpful observations. She had battled her entire career for respect, recognition, and dignity, and she refused to mistake cruelty for artistic insight. She later admitted the film didn't drain her because of the script or role. It drained her because of the constant struggle to defend her worth. It wasn't the role that wore me down, she explained. It was having to constantly defend my worth. Each day on set felt like a quiet war, where Sally fought simply for the right to create without ridicule or intimidation. After Kiss Me Goodbye, Sally never publicly lashed out at Woods. But in her memoir and rare interviews, she gently revealed the quiet horror of working with someone who confused arrogance for genius. She never stooped to accusations or drama. Her simple, calm truth spoke louder than any harsh criticism. From that painful experience, Sally made herself a quiet promise. Never again. Never again would she allow someone's inflated ego to diminish her voice. She learned to recognize clearly that brilliance without respect was merely cruelty in disguise. And though critics called Kiss Me Goodbye just another forgettable romantic comedy, for Sally Field it became something deeper, a powerful awakening, a moment when she reclaimed her strength and dignity. In that quiet resolve, Sally found a strength no camera captured, one born from the scars of quiet battles fought in silence, and one through sheer determination never to let another co-star rob her of her worth again.